Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
What's going on, everybody? This is Critical Failure. You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio, episode 186. And after 2.5 months back on the air, after the previous hiatus, this is the first episode I got my asset pack back. And it feels good, man, because it took me quite a while to collect some of this stuff. Here's a little gem I uncovered, just sifting through the old files. This is an audio comment from DB from Gooch and the Douchebag, and this is about the Monster Cast, which at the time was just around the corner. Have a quick listen.
Hello, Critical Failure. DB here, and I've only got one question for you. What is going to take place during your 6-hour massive episode of Tiger Claw Radio? Is this going to be a live podcast or a broadcast that you're going to do? Are you going to have special guests? Are you going to play music? Are you going to take requests? I want to know what is going to go on this. And if you're going to take special guests, we'll be needing some assistance from the Gooch and myself. I'm going to go ahead and volunteer him for this because I'm sure he'll be up for it. And so I would say Jerry Terry, fine, everyone else we want to jump on this 6-hour monstrosity you call a podcast that'll be coming up soon. So thanks for playing this. Keep up the great work at Tiger Claw TV and Tiger Claw Radio. We'll see you next time.
That was recorded in 2010. That was 7 years ago. And if you don't remember, shortly after that, the Monster Cast came out, and it was a lot of fun. And that ended up breaking my Podomatic account wide open, but the MP3 is still available on the archive. If you want to, I think it ended up being like 8 hours, but I had almost everybody on the internet that I knew and was interested in made it on that show. But after all this time, when people still bring it up on occasion, and the one thing that everyone brings up is the crazy stories that Jerry Terrifying told. A little bit of podcasting history for you right here on Tiger Claw Radio. All right, guys. Let's play some chip tunes. This is called Death Lord Wasabi. It's from Ajax, H-A-A-X-E. Ajax. Not quite Ajax. And it's, we're going to make your morning just a little bit better. Head over to chipmusic.org and get yourself a copy of the MP3 if you feel so inclined. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio, episode 185. Nope, not 185, 186. There we go.
When I'm lounging around the Terror Dome, I like to sit back and relax with a big, tall jug of orange juice and listen to Tiger Claw Radio.
We are about 1 month from the Steam summer sales, so I've been keeping a pretty close eye on what's been going on, but you'll notice that the Bundleverse, all the bundle websites have started to kind of run dry. There's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but by and large, I'm not seeing a lot of really great deals on out in the Bundleverse. A couple of things I did notice is that Nidhogg got a net play and matchmaking update. So if you got Nidhogg on Steam, which is a great sword party game, that did get some online capabilities, though I haven't tried it yet. So we'll have to check that out and see how it goes. Also, Bayonetta got a new patch, the PC recently released PC port of Bayonetta. The new patch is providing some more stability, which is great because people are saying, based on the feedback, that it's a really solid PC port, which is awesome because a lot of times when you see games ported to PC, actually most of the time I'm seeing ports that are done after the fact being handled very sloppily. So it's nice to see consumers really getting something good in this case. So let's head over to the Vancast. Recording the Vancast was a little bit interesting this week because there was no way I was going to top the fidget spinner bit from last week. So I sat down and did it, and I ran for like a minute in the morning, like a minute and a half, and I was like, oh, I just don't have it today. So I tried again that afternoon. I think this was like maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, and I think it went okay. So we'll see how it goes. All right, guys. Let's try this again. What's going on, guys? This is Critical Failure, and you're listening to the Vancast. It's late afternoon now. I put in my day's work, and I'm headed home. It's one of those days where I can really feel the pressure on my temples. Kind of feels like I'm underwater. Oh man, yes indeedy. Looking forward to getting home and getting back to my office and stretching out a little bit and playing some video games. Something interesting happened to me the other day when I was messing around on VidMe. I'm a punk guy. I've been listening to a lot of punk music for a very, very long time. But I was searching around on VidMe and I came across, just by random chance, a video that was like an audio dump from a 45 from a guy named Lee Moses, who I was not familiar with. He was like a Motown or R&B blues kind of guy from the mid 60s. And usually when I get into something, it's gradual, but that was like how do I explain it? A single moment where everything kind of shifted, and immediately after listening to that track, I got heavy into like mid 60s, early 70s R&B and soul music, like big time. So when I was at work today, I spent a lot of time listening to like Otis Redding and Percy Sledge and mostly Otis Redding, and Wilson Pickett is also an old favorite of mine. And this is one of the problems I have with syndicating on YouTube. I used to play this kind of music on the show on Tiger Claw Radio like a long time ago. I think probably, I don't know, you guys would have to help me, maybe episodes like the 30 range, episode 30s, 40s, you'd hear like James Brown and stuff like that. Instead of playing chiptunes. One of the reasons I play chiptunes now is because it's an interest, another musical interest that I hold, but also the Creative Commons licensing is important. If I played a Wilson Pickett song on TCR today, YouTube would just they wouldn't be having it, and there wouldn't be any debate or any review. It would just be like the machine of silence has picked out your video and you're done, boy, and that'd be the end of it, which is really a shame, because one of the things that kept me coming back to TCR after all the years and hiatuses and stuff that I've come back from is really the sheer freedom of just whatever I'm into goes on TCR. Whatever it is I'm into. You know what? If I'm into a big paper mache kick, I'm digging paper mache. That's what we're talking about. And I feel like now, I guess not for the first time, but now for the first time in a long time, I really feel like I'm being censored a little bit, or not censored. I guess censored is the wrong word, but I feel like I really have to bend things to fit. And especially with YouTube being in the state it's in, that's something, with my YouTube channel being in shambles, it's something I'm less and less willing to do, especially since VidMe doesn't seem to have the same restrictions, and I'm getting better viewership on VidMe. When I put videos up, every video I make these days goes up on both, but overall my statistics are doing way better on VidMe. So I don't know. It's not really video game related, but if you play a game like, I don't know, maybe it's not really video game related, but when you're playing PC games, it's common for people to silence the music that's inbuilt with the game and play their own soundtrack over it, especially if you're one of those guys who plays the same game all the time. A lot of Counter-Strike players do it. A lot of another game I like is the truck driving simulation. A lot of that is just monotonous tasks, so that's a good one for podcast listening and music, which is cool. So oh yeah, and the old rhythm and blues and stuff, man, it really gels well with my newfound interest in vinyl, because people still maintain jukeboxes. So 45s of that type of music are much more acquirable than I would say some of the rare punk 45s. That's not to say there aren't there aren't rarities like that. The song that kicked open the gates for me, "Bad Girl" from Lee Moses. I wanted to get that 45 because it was like a weird instance where they took a 4-minute track and they split it in half so that it could fit on a 45. I don't know, whatever. Stay with me. And they put half of the song on either side of the record, so you would have to flip the record in the middle of the song. And if you look up his album, his full length, it's still split into 2 parts. So somebody at some point ripped the record and got Audacity and meshed it together into one. So the fact that you can play the track in one sitting is kind of a new thing. But to go get the vinyl, at least that 45 is like $250. It's just one of those records that's like, it's not readily available. So if you want to get one, you're going to pay an awful lot for it. Which is, yeah, no, I can't. I mean, there are some records that I've thought about paying a lot for, but I'm just not there yet. Not with Lee Moses. I'm not in $250 for a record. I'm not in that place yet. So I'd like to hear, because those of us in the group of people who listen to this, right? Those of you guys who come over from Mondo Coolcast and who I've met from RetroWave TV and through the years, we don't talk about music a whole heck of a lot, with the exception of Alex Swingle. I'm curious to hear what your tastes are musically, because I know Kaiser is pretty educated and has in terms of music, and has a really wide range. He put together compilations for Beat Hazard, and I don't play Beat Hazard anymore, but his Beat Hazard compilation, or mixtape if you will, was really something. I held on to that for a while, but then he also had like Personal Jukebox on YouTube for years ago, which was like a lot of anime soundtracks and stuff. So I don't know. I have a feeling if we all compared notes about what it is we listen to musically, I bet it would be all different. So I don't know. I just think that'd be interesting. And then you've got Death Adder, who opens his Death Adder Super Show, or at least he did around the beginning, with like Guns N' Roses and Metallica and stuff. All right, so that's just some food for thought. Also, not just what are you listening to, but where are you getting it from? Because this is another thing that I was thinking about recently. many years ago, when I relied on physical medium for music, it seemed like more people were focused on a single type of music. Now it seems like anyone who really digs music as like something that they are into beyond just like casually, it seems like most people listen to more types of music. Like any true music fan, it seems now is more like, oh yeah, I'm into everything. That wasn't really the case 20 years ago. 20 years ago, it was like, I'm into punk because every album I acquire either requires great effort to pirate or I have to pay, X amount of dollars to get one. It wasn't really as free and open as it is now. So I don't know. That's just food for thought. I've been, music is another one of those things where it's like as time gets tighter and I have less time for gaming, some of that attention I can put into listening to new music. I'm not the biggest Henry Rollins fan in the world, but one of the things he said I agree with is that try and listen to as much music as possible. If you feel like you're in a place where you can't listen to any more music, try anyway. And I would say every time I've put that into practice, I have never regretted it. That's always been something I've gotten positive results out of. So that's where I took the Vancast today. I think last week's Vancast about the fidget, I don't think I'm going to beat that. And also I have a really bad headache, so I guess I'm just not in a silly place right now. But all right, guys, we'll call it. I'll throw it back to Panzer Studios. I'll see you there as soon as I find this off button without getting in a car accident. Back again in Panzer Studios. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio, episode 186. This is time I want to set aside to thank the patrons that are keeping the show on the air and are making it so that I can get this out every week. So my thanks to those gentlemen, and they are Sendu, Hemrock, Darabka, and Tecmo Balls. Thanks for supporting, guys. Much appreciate it. And these gentlemen do receive the podcast on Friday as opposed to on Monday morning. So if you'd like to be a supporter and join the Friday Club, head over to the Patreon page, leave $1 in the hat, help keep things running. Speaking of which, I've got kind of a special feature, which I'm pretty excited about. I got an audio comment. You remember those? Audio comments were really big in like 2010. I still maintain a traditional email address for the show, tigerclawradio@yahoo.com. This guy used Vocaroo, which seems to work very well. That way, there was no need for any exchange of email addresses or anything like that. And this is Balzac. This is from Balzac, who's been a member of the community for pretty much as long as I can remember, and this is probably the first time I can remember hearing his voice. All right, so let's see what he's got.
Kazlib208 here, and for the first time, recording an audio comment for Tiger Claw Radio, just for Critical Failure. And yeah, it's weird. I'm also usually write to this. Ever since I was listening to this show since 2010, this is the first time I'm actually sending an audio comment instead of just writing to you. But I just want to do it like this since a lot's happened lately, and I don't really want to just bombard you with a wall of text like I usually do. So why not? Let's start this off with, I'm going to Japan supposedly in a month, and I just found this out last Thursday. It's Tuesday right now, so less than maybe 4-5 days ago, I found this out. And why I'm bringing this up is because it's going to be a 14-hour plane ride just to get there. So you know what that means. I actually get a chance to listen to the Monstercast while I'm on a trip. So that's kind of cool, because I'm just going to be sitting there doing nothing in a cramped plane seat or yeah, for a while. So that would be a good way to kill time. And also it's gonna be pretty cool listening to that thing again, since I haven't listened to it in its entirety in over 4 years. So it's gonna be pretty nice hearing those weird stories that Jerry told, and also it would be great to listen to all the other guests too. That's gonna be fun. So let's start this off with, I last sent you a comment back in November 2015. Oops. Yeah, sorry about that. I had to shift around a bit. Anyways, I sent you a comment back in November 2015 before the PS4 Pro came out, saying I was going to get the PS4 Pro. Well, I ended up getting it, and I also got all the games that I listed that I said I was going to get, which was Final Fantasy 15, Last Guardian, Yakuza 0, and Persona 5. And I got a couple others like Uncharted Collection, DOA X3, Gone Home. That's one I kind of regret. And what else was there? Oh, yeah. I can't remember the rest on the top of my head, but those are just ones that are popping out of my mind. And it's pretty good. It's a pretty good system, and I'm glad that I got it. Mostly I got it. The reason why I mostly got the PS4 was for Shenmue 3, because actually, yeah, Shenmue 3 is, I would say, probably my most anticipated game of this next gen. Actually, about 70% of the reason why I got a PS4 was mostly for Shenmue 3, just because I don't even think I was going to participate in this next generation of consoles, but then right after Shenmue 3 was announced, yeah, that's when I actually had to jump on the PS4, which, yeah, that thing is supposedly coming out in December 2017, which, that's not happening. I don't think so. That's not, they just started programming it back in, or, doing the basic doing the actual heavy work of making the game back in January. So I highly doubt it's going to come out in December 2017. I'm looking at maybe June 2018 is when it's going to come out. So maybe next E3. Oh yeah, speaking of E3, E3 is just around the corner in about 20 days. So I know this is probably the wrong guy I'm asking, but any kind of news you're hoping for, looking forward to, new games that you want to see, or games that are going to come out soon that you want to see more information on? Personally, I'm just one expectation that I'm crossing my fingers hoping that's going to happen is Shenmue 1 and 2 HD. I'm really hoping for that to come out, an announcement from Sega saying we're going to release this. And I think Windjammers is going to get a surprise announcement on E3 2017. It's going to be released during E3, I think, because the beta of that's coming out a week beforehand. So that usually means that the game is really coming out soon. So Windjammers announcement and Shenmue 1 and 2 HD announcement are hoping for. And I hope maybe Yuki Suzuki could come out there and show some gameplay of Shenmue 3 on the E3 stage this time, instead of just announcing it like he did 2 years ago for Shenmue 3. But we'll see what happens. I'll get back to you on that, maybe in a future comments soon enough. And yeah, E3 2017, those two, and the rest of the games, I honestly don't really care that much. And I just, God of War, new Last of Us, yeah, no thanks. I had enough of those games. I had enough of my fill with all those games. I don't need any more of them. In more games that I'm not gonna play, in all honesty. So yeah, that, and oh yeah, I should probably mention this. It's irrelevant now, but I got a Switch at the midnight launch at Best Buy back in March, and I had it for about a month, and then after that, Persona 5 came out, and I realized I'm never going to touch this thing anymore, so I ended up selling it. I was going to return it originally, but I had to sell it instead because I realized I might make a profit, which I didn't in the end, but I was thinking maybe I could make a profit, and also Best Buy might have not taken it back. So that was, yeah. The reason why mostly I got rid of the Switch is because, I don't know, man. I had an N64 and a GameCube and kind of the Wii growing up, and I realized once you had one or two Nintendo consoles, you pretty much played everything Nintendo has to offer, and usually the new consoles are just rehashes of the same old games that you played before. So I was just thinking, I'm not gonna really play this thing that much because there's nothing new here, and even the new stuff like Splatoon and ARMS don't really appeal to me that much since those are mostly multiplayer focused, which I'm not really that interested in all honesty. Just I want mostly single player games, man, and I mostly a lot of new IPs are multiplayer only, and that's not my bag, Yeah, just not for me. So yeah, that's about all the news I have to say right now, but what better way to end this audio comment than with a question? And that's obviously let me give this a little bit of context. I usually sometimes every few months check Gooch and the Douchebags website just to see if they ever updated it or anything, or any kind of anything that comes out, whether that be number 1 and 2 of the worst console list or a new podcast episode. And I just looked at the episode 100, which is obviously not episode 100. I think it's 56, but they just put episode 100 there just because they felt like it. And that was like listed October 2012. And I looked down at I wrote a comment on that episode 2 years ago, so 2015, in preparation just in case they make another podcast episode. And I looked down on it and I saw you wrote a comment on there 2 months ago, even though it was just 2 words, "come back," very funnily written. And I was asking you, do you think GNDB will ever make a comeback by any chance? I know DB. Well, I think last time I saw any of them, for DB, it was 20. Yeah, that last episode was the last time I heard any saw any kind of content from him. And Gooch, he used to be on Classic Leap, but I checked Classic Lead a few months ago and saw that the last time he was ever on the podcast was back at E3 2015. So he's also phased off he's also run into obscurity. So, and they both don't even have social accounts, and the GNDB Twitter account hasn't been used since that episode 100 came out in 2012. So my final question is, do you think GNDB will make a comeback or even kind of make a resurgence ever in podcast or video form? In my honest opinion, I don't think that's ever going to happen. They just something happened where they just they just fell off the wagon in video games forever. Maybe it happens to everybody. It kind of happened to me a little bit too, because I rarely play games that much. The only reason I have the only reason I have this PS4 was what I said before. But in all honesty, if it wasn't for Shenmue 3, I probably wouldn't even be thinking about video games anymore. But I could see how you kind of grow out of this hobby after you reach above the age of 30. I don't know, we'll see. So that's my question. Do you think GNDB will ever come back? Well, that's about it for the first audio comment that for a podcast I've been listening to in 2010. And I realized that out of the first podcast I listened to back then, or the first podcast I ever listened to, which were first GNDB Radio, Tiger Claw Radio, and Mondo Coolcast, I'm glad that at least 2 out of 3 of you guys are still out there, and especially since I'm glad that one of you guys, which is TCR, makes episodes on a consistent basis. And I don't really listen to video game podcasts. You guys are you and Jerry are mostly my only podcasts I listen. Well, I listen to Death Adder's podcast, the Death Adder Super Show. But that's only because I know Death Adder. So personally, to me, that podcast is pretty okay. I don't know how it is to any stranger's ears, though. So that's it for my long audio comment, which is, let's see, how far is this racking in? About 10 minutes. Jeez. Yeah, so hope that you still keep making episodes in the future and all that. So that's about it for me. So Kazlib208 out for now. So goodbye.
Kazlib, formerly Balzac. Hey man, thanks for the audio comment. It's been a while since I had one of those. I kind of put the cart before the horse here. I had listened to the first half of that in preparation for the show, but I didn't know you mentioned Gooch and the Douchebag. So yeah, how about that? let's say this first. I'm going to put a link to the old Monster Cast in the description here, because it's the second time it's been mentioned on the air. It was just like a one-off special that I did that was very long, and I don't know, it was fun. Let's see. So So you got a PS Pro. So how is that? Of the games you listed, Persona 5 sounded interesting. Final Fantasy 15 sounded. I guess I could use the word interesting. I don't know if I would pay retail price for Final Fantasy 15, but it looks cool enough. And you mentioned you bought Gone Home. My question for that would be, okay, so on Steam, I didn't buy Gone Home because Steam has enough consumer tools to let the consumers talk to each other. So we've got a rating system, we've got a review system, even though it's not as good as it used to be. And there's message boards that are right off the store page. Okay, so these things told me what Gone Home was before I bought it. So my question would be, since I'm so out of touch with the PSN and with consoles, does the PSN have anything like that for you as a PS4 consumer? Because I think, if I remember right, Gone Home and the screenshots looked like, hey, it's a first-person game. Okay, and then, not so much. So yeah, Shenmue 3, that certainly will be a video game. At some point, maybe, or maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be a pachinko machine like they did with Castlevania. Best of luck with that. I never played. No, that's not true. I did play a Shenmue game. I never got into the Shenmue games. I took the time to obtain copies for the Dreamcast, and I kicked around with it once. I looked at some things and I put it up. But to be fair, that was when I was in like this big Dreamcast sort of exploration. And the Dreamcast as a console had kind of opened up to me for like the first time in a big, big way. So I was switching back and forth between a lot of games really fast. And I didn't really have the attention span for a game like Shenmue. These days, I probably would have the attention span, but I don't have the time anymore. Now all the time is spent like at work. So when I sit down to play a game, it's usually, max for like an hour at a time. But yeah, I know people really liked it, so it'll be cool to see a third one. What else did we talk about here? I'm still gonna pass on the current generation of consoles at this time. It seems like my problem with consoles is that consoles are designed to make the ownership of software temporary, which is weird because I don't know. It wasn't always that way. The old systems, you mentioned you grew up with Nintendo 64. Do you still have any of those games? Right? With consoles, we have online infrastructure that gets shut down after a while. That's one thing, and we also have paid services. So it used to be, okay, so if you bought a PS4, you can run it until Sony shuts down the servers. Okay, well that's fair, because by that time it'll be many years old. They can shut it down. It's not a big deal. Well, now they have with the concept of paying annually for online services, you can play it online until your interest drops below willingness to pay however much the fee is. So the lifespan of the full functionality of a system drastically went down after they released that. I have an Xbox 360 here. It still functions online, but I am not willing to pay the fee to get it connected. So it sits as a paperweight. And that's what I see happening if I bought any of the current generation systems. I think it's hilarious that you sold the Nintendo Switch. I think that is really funny. They're saying the new Zelda game is legendary. They're saying They're saying it's a Legend of Zelda, but that's one game. So you have Legend of Zelda, and you have I never got a Wii U, so Mario Maker I could get on the Switch. Apart from that, I don't know, man. I don't want to knock it too hard because I want to leave the door open to the fact that amazing things could still happen on consoles. So that leads me into E3. Do I have any thoughts about E3? Well, you know I've been out of the E3 game for a very long time. Years ago, probably actually around the time Gooch and the Douchebag was around, E3 was an event. And when it came out, everybody in the circle of podcasts did an E3 episode. Well, I don't do that anymore because the games I'm interested in, they don't get E3. They don't get any play on E3. You're not going to see... mid-sentence I just had this thought. It's like, what do I even play anymore? I don't think I play new games anymore. Is Trackmania going to be at E3? Trackmania actually was at E3 a couple of years ago with their Turbo game, and it came out and it sucked. Here's the thing. I expect companies, if a company wants my attention, they've got to release something. Get a product to market. That's what gets my attention. I'm not swayed by being told things are going to happen in the future anymore. I mean, it's just because how many times, Balzac, have we seen... it's funny because I'm going to continue calling you Balzac even though you introduced yourself as Kazlib. How many times have we seen grandiose promises be made and got nothing or little to nothing in return? It's happened a good bit. It's happened enough that it's killed my interest in E3. And in the words of Tom Hanks, that's all I have to say about that. What else we have? We talked about you sold the Switch. Gooch and the Douchebag. I think Gooch and the Douchebag called their last episode 100 because they were on Gooch was on Classic Elite at the time, and I think it was episode 100 of Classic Elite. I think that's why they called it that. I honestly don't think those guys are going to come back as a pair. I spent some time trying to track them down to see if I could get a message out to either one of them a while back, but I ran into no success. At the time when we were talking and they were doing their show, I believe, without revealing any personal information, those were career-oriented guys. At least one of them was. So I would like to think that that's where they are now, just being out there being career-oriented. And if that's the case, then good for them. You know, if you go back and look at their channel now, they were doing really, really well by 2010 YouTube standards. They had, 3,000 to 6,000 subs, something like that. They were doing very, very well. I remember the first time I went on with them, it was a very desirable spot to be on. I got to be on with guys who were established, who had an audience. And a lot of the people I talk to now, I met through them. I mean, Sendu, right? Sendu was a G&DB fan. So were you. So was Jerry. So that's the thing. I don't think they're coming back, but I hope it's because it's because they're in a good place. I would say go through the archive again, enjoy what they've created, and God bless. I hope they're doing well. There's many more podcasting people raving on the internet about video games to be had. I still say that the best podcasting I ever did was the first few episodes of G&DB I did with Jerry Terrifying, the four of us, because we all had the same sense of humor. Nobody knew who Anita Sarkeesian was yet, so we were. There wasn't quite as much political correctness, although we had a fair amount. We all had the same sense of humor. We all had conflicting ideas on video games. Like of the four of us, none of us agreed on video games. Gooch was a PC guy. DB was a console guy, and he big into Mass Effect. Jerry was always was the Saturn guy, the Saturn, and had a thorough Sega education. And at that time, I was the freeware guy. So we all had conflicting ideas on what we liked or what we could play. But we all had the same sense of humor. So when we started fighting too much, we could just make like fart jokes, and it made everyone laugh. So yeah, those were good times. So yeah, I guess at this point we're doing the fail bag now, right?
It's time for the fail bag.
Yes, friends, it's the Fail Bag. It's that fan-type form of entertainment where I read your questions, comments, anything you want read on the air. It's time for me to interact with you guys. You can head over to TigerClawTV.com. You can leave a comment there. You can head over to thenextround.net. My boys at the Next Round. Leave a comment there. Also, over on YouTube. Good old YouTube where this is posted. You can leave one there, and you can also leave one on the Next Round Network on VidMe. Those 4 places, those are where the podcast is posted, and that's where I'd love to hear from you. All right, it's still working. The first comment we have is from Hemrock, and he writes, "Hey CF, enjoying the podcast. I have a few questions for you. Number 1, ever thought about bringing back the bonus game or gift game that you used to mention at the end of each episode? Basically, it was a freeware game that you would talk about to conclude the show in a small way, or offer a prize to those who listen to the end. Number 2, what happened to the question of the week? Number 3, do you think you'll ever try to revive the ill-fated Suikoden review? Number 4, what are your top 5 portable games? iOS and Android do not count. I'm talking Game Boy, GBA, DS, PSP, Lynx, Game Gear, etc. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Always good to hear from you, man. The gift game, I don't know. You know, segments come and go. Freeware games, I think, got harder for me to find. It was easier to find them when I couldn't afford games, because I spent more time looking for them, so I kind of always had something locked and loaded. I could bring that back, though. I mean, there's plenty of freeware blogs I could follow. I could bring that back. I don't have one for this week, but I'm willing to consider doing that again. What happened to the question of the week? I think... Yeah, that's another good question. What did happen to the question of the week? I think that might have been one that just that didn't make it back when I came back from hiatus. See, every time I go on break and then I come back again, the show has to change a little bit because a lot of the segments stay alive through routine. So if I break the first show back, all my routines are broken. That's what makes it really hard to come back after a hiatus. So that's probably what happened to the question of the week. I don't know. I just stopped doing it. That one we will do this week. I will do some sort of question of the week. Do I think I'll ever try and revive the Suikoden review? Sure. It's not going to be the same, but I have a lot of footage for that game. I still have the footage, and I want to edit the footage into something. But here's the thing, dude. Those types of videos don't get views anymore. So the return on the time investment is not what it used to be. It used to be if I really crunched on a video and I got the quality there and I put the extra time and I made the animated face, views would come. Now, not a lot, but I would see a spike or a correlation in views to effort, right? That isn't there anymore. That same correlation does not exist. So it won't be what it used to be. But at the same time, I have a lot of footage that I used to connect. I used by connecting my old Hauppauge HD PVR, which I never use anymore. So I don't know. So part of me really wants to make sure that footage gets used, but also part of me wants to make sure I got to go back and play that game again. I mean, I recorded the audio for that review like, I don't know, years ago. Maybe one of these weeks coming up, I'll just put the audio for the review. I'll play the audio as a bit on TCR, and then I'll make something completely different with the footage just to make sure something gets up. But yeah, that's kind of what happened this weekend. So let's talk about the top 5 portable games. All right, so here's my list, created off the cuff, so bear with me. Super Mario Land 2 for... Oh, yeah, I'm doing this backwards. Oh, well. Number 1 is Super Mario Land 2 for the original Game Boy. That's there representing the Super Mario Land series, because I think I would also include the first Super Mario Land. That was a big game for me. Number 2, huge game for me, Zelda Link's Awakening. That was, for a very, very long time, that was my favorite game in the Zelda series, the entire Zelda franchise. I would say it still is. When they released the Game Boy Color games, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, I was super excited because it's like they took my favorite game and they made another one. The fact that those use like the same chips and the same what do you call it? A lot of the same graphics, same sprites. I was super excited to see those. Zelda Link's Awakening is an amazing, amazing game. This is a little bit of an unconventional answer for the question you're asking, but I would say a Little Sound DJ, good old LSDJ, because I'm a chiptune guy. That, although it wasn't an official release and you have to get a flash card to play it, is a hugely impactful game. As a consumer of chiptunes, I toyed around with it some, enough to create a couple of things, but really what I was going for was just enough to appreciate the effort that goes into a good LSDJ track. So that makes the list. Number 4, we have Pokemon Soul Silver, representing the Pokemon series, which is why they're not just all Pokemon games. Soul Silver was the one that I put the most time into, I think, at least in modern times. Peaking out at over 100 hours, which for me in any game is a lot, even now. That was the one that had the Pokewalker. That Pokewalker actually got me outside walking when my son, who is now 7 years old, was an infant. I would get him in the stroller and we would walk down to the park, and he would just chill out outside, and we'd hang out, and I would catch Pokemon with the Pokewalker, and we would kind of, I want to use the word talk back and forth, but he was a baby, so we would just kind of, they're the way you do with really small children, just kind of hang out and give them attention. That was what was going on with Pokemon Soul Silver, so that's a super important game for me. And last on the list, which would be number 5, would be Game & Watch Gallery 3 for GBA. Now, the Game & Watch Gallery games are hit and miss. Some people really dig them, some people don't. This one was big for me. It was a game that I got. It was one of the last Game Boy Advance games that I bought, only like 2 years ago, and you could turn it on in under a minute and be in the game, and you could save your game, and it was great. I enjoyed it for that. Specifically the cement factory, the cookie factory thing. It was a good game. An honorable mention would be that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Board Traveler game. If it wasn't so slow getting through a game, Yu-Gi-Oh! Board Traveler would be amazing. So that's my top 5 off the cuff best portable games. And my question of the week to you guys is, what's your top 5 portable games? And we're not counting iOS or Android, so Angry Birds. I guess nobody plays Angry Birds anymore. All right, thanks for the email, dude. It's always good to hear from you. I hope your life is going well. All right, let's see. Over on VidMe, VJAYTV. All right, it's another product the world really did not need, and I have to agree. I assume you're referring to the fidget. It's a fidget. Wow. Yeah, I agree. I kind of don't get it. I think it's really silly. But I don't know. I guess somebody out there thinks it's worth expending currency on. But you know what they say, a fool and his money, right? Let's see what else we got. That's from VidMe. Let's head over to YouTube and see. Last week's did actually really well. All right. We got a couple from Dumaze and one from Death Adder. Now, I seem to remember hearing that there was one from Alex Swingle, but I don't see it here. Maybe it's on the next round. Let's go through these and I'll go check it out. So Dumaze writes, I did Doom 2 multiplayer using modem, but not online. I direct dialed my brother's PC. That's awesome, dude. I could never figure out how to do that. Playing games multiplayer on PC during those days was just so complicated. It was just unbelievable. He goes on to write, I prefer Xism and SF3A, never Zism. Street Fighter Alpha 3. Yeah, I'm kind of just... I feel like I'm just getting started with that game, even though it's been years. I studied with Street Fighter Alpha 3 for the first time. And it's good. I don't know. I like Street Fighter 5 better. Although I put Street Fighter 5 up this past week. I didn't open it at all last week because of the beating I got the last time I played it. It was just so disheartening. Thanks for the comments, dude. We move on to Death Adder, YouTube Savior. The YouTube retractor himself writes 1829. Lol, nah man, I enjoy your road nuttiness. I had to Google what a fidget was. Stephen Hawking did say humans have only 1,000 years left. You need to make a knockoff fidget infomercial and upload it. Yeah, I think what I'll do is clip out the fidget spinner bit and upload it by itself. Because I think it was only like 10 minutes or something like that. Yeah, those things are dumb. I don't know. People buy dumb things. And what's funny is people buy them, and then other people see people make bad decisions and then make those same bad decisions, which I think is I think is the funniest part of the whole situation. I don't know, Swingle. I don't know, man. I don't see any comments from you. It's Friday and there's no comments, dude. I'll tell you what, Swingle. You leave the comment. I will read it next week. Swingle told me last night, he's like, I'm going to leave you a great big comment, which usually includes a lot of criticism. So I was kind of expecting to get railed, but it didn't seem to happen. You know what? Let's do this. Just before I close the fail bag, we talked about Gooch and the Douchebag earlier. I'm going to do it Gooch and the Douchebag style. The way they would do it is they had their podcast, but they had an established YouTube channel. So when they did their when they did their mailbag section, bagged, you've been bagged. They would just read every YouTube comment they got, and that was every single one. They would read all their YouTube comments. All right, so that's what I'm not going to read them all, but I'm going to go check out my YouTube comments and see if I've gotten any sour words from Vintage Video Game Geek or criticisms from Alex Swingle that I do so enjoy. All right, let's see here. If we drop to, I stopped looking at all this stuff because it just got too depressing to see what YouTube had become. Cyberbrickmaster 1986 says on the Gianna Sisters video, it looks like they ironed out a number of the bugs in the game since it was first released on Steam. I didn't know it was buggy, but I tell you what, they must have, because Gianna Sisters plays really smooth right now. It's a good game. There were some bugs in the Ouya version, that's for sure. Dumaze writes, if you're looking for a DRM-free version of Gianna Twisted's Dreams for Windows, let me know. Thanks, man. I think I got that on Steam, but I appreciate the offer. I think I got that on Steam anyway. I don't know. I'll have to check it out. And I think that's it. That is it. On my Nardwuar vinyl opening video, Alex Swingle writes, you might be a bit too good at making the derp face. Very nice shiny objects. Yep, that's a thing that I do. All right, and that's it. That closes the fail bag. And I guess we are 54 minutes in. That, my friends, is a show. It's Tiger Claw Radio. That's the show. Special thanks to everybody who wrote in this week. I felt like I didn't have a whole lot to go with, but you guys helped save the show. 186 belongs to the fail bag, and thank you very much for it. So this is the part of the show where I set aside a little time to say, keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on going. Don't give up. All right. whatever brought you to Tiger Claw Radio this week, I'm glad you decided to spend 55 minutes listening to me talk. I hope I brought you a little entertainment, and I'm rooting for you. Don't give up. Make it a good week. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys. Yep, yep.